Haley, and today I'm talking about the absolute best, most wonderful, delightful, delicious books that I read in this past year. I read a lot of really fabulous books this past year. My average rating was actually 4 stars. There were very few books that I read that I did not like. The majority of books were like 4 or 5 stars with a few three stars, you know, kind of sprinkled in there. So this is quite a lengthy list. I'm not even going to try to pare it down. I am just going to talk briefly about the, 24 books that were my favorites in 2022. Before we dive in, I'm going to reach back here to our Booktuber shout out book. And we're gonna shout out somebody randomly. Let's see, today's shout out goes to Bookish Topics. You can look over in the description to find a link to their channel, so be sure to go over and subscribe to them. And if you haven't already, please do subscribe to this channel and follow me over on Instagram and Goodreads and Twitter and all the places. None of the books on this list are going to be rereads, because obviously I reread a lot of my favorite series, my favorite books, this past year. So those books are not included on this list because obviously they're my favorite. I thought about trying to put these like in categories by genre or something like that, but you know what? We're just gonna go for it. It's just a random list and they're all mixed in, and here we go. I finally finished reading the Dragonback series by Timothy Zahn. It starts with Dragon and Thief, and there are 6 books, and I read them all in 2022. And I loved this series. Every single book got 4.5 or 5 stars. I mean, it's Timothy Zahn. If you're a sci-fi person, you know Timothy Zahn is going to deliver an amazing, epic space travel saga that is just full of adventure and complex characters. So this is all about a young man, Jack, who is 14 years old. He has been trained as a con man and a thief. And he meets a poet warrior, a dragon of the Kadar. This is an alien who looks kind of like a tiger-sized dragon. The thing about this dragon is that he can only survive for about 6 hours in a 3D form. And then he has to go 2D onto someone's skin, kind of like a tattoo. So he has to have a symbiont relationship with someone. And when his host dies, he has to quickly find someone else, and he finds Jack. And of course, then they're off on their adventures. Every time that I thought I knew what direction this story was gonna go, it would just go in some other direction. It was just wild. It was just always something unexpected, something new. It's just always something, and it's so fabulous. I also read The Leadership of C.S. Lewis, 10 Traits to Encourage Change and Growth by Crystal Hurd. I have done a whole separate review video about this one. Of course, C.S. Lewis is one of my very favorite authors. This book just inspired me so much. I mean, I went into it expecting that I would learn a little bit more about C.S. Lewis, and how he exhibited leadership both in his life and through his writing, and how he still is a leader in Christian circles through all of his books. But I got all of that plus a lot of like personal reflection and personal inspiration from this book. It's really interesting to take a look at this author's life and his writing from this particular perspective. I also read The Pear Affair by Judith Eagle. This is about a young lady who comes to visit Paris looking for her long-lost nanny, Pear. She soon discovers that her nanny is missing, and she goes on a quest across the city of Paris to find her nanny. The reason I love this one so much is that there are so many different layers to this story and different characters who all have their own things going on, and then all of their storylines converge in the end, and it's just so cool. Round the Fire Stories by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle is a collection of short stories that are creepy, but not too scary. So there's murder and mayhem and accidental suicide and poisoning and ghosts. And there's a one story that has a seance. There's just all kinds of crazy nightmarish things that are happening. But it's like, it's never quite too scary because I don't like scary stuff. It's just the right amount of creepy. I finally read Olive after years and years of Katie over at Books and Things recommending it to everyone on Booktube. I finally sat down and read it, and I loved it so much. Olive is a young lady who was born with a deformity in her back, so she's a little bit of a humpback, and she's grown up just knowing that she'll never find love or get married because she has this disability. Then Victorian society is just not going to accept her. And it's all about how she rises above her circumstances and she finds hope and love. And it's so interesting to see like her reactions and her interactions with all the other characters and how her resilience and her faith then changes those other characters. It's just so cool. I loved it. I loved Sir Walter Scott's epic poem, The Lady of the Lake. So this is set in the Scottish Highlands. The Lady of the Lake is a young Highland lass, and her father is the chief of their Highland clan. But her father has fallen out of favor at the court of the king, and he has been banished, and so they're all hiding in this island in the middle of a lake up in the boonies of the Highlands. They're out there in the wilderness. Well, then, of course, there are knights who are, fighting for her hand, and there's a battle and all sorts of adventures. It's just absolutely beautiful. I mean, I love Sir Walter Scott's prose, but wow, his poetry it just flows over you, these beautiful, vivid words and everything. It's just so powerful. The next one is Knowing God by J.I. Packer. This book goes through a different attribute of God in every chapter and how we can truly approach God with humility, with openness, ready to receive his revelation of himself to us in his scriptures. It was just really incredible to see how these different attributes of God, although to our human minds they might seem like they are contradictory, they actually work together. Things like justice and mercy, and like God's wrath and God's love. We would say those are opposites, but actually the way God works is it often ends up being the same thing. It was just so interesting to dive really deep into this rich theology, and through every chapter I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, that makes sense. It was really inspiring. I love this kind of stuff. I just love diving deep into these spiritual themes, and I don't know, I can feel the Holy Spirit working in me as I just seek after God. The next one is The Ordinary Princess by M.M.K. This is told in like that classic fairy tale style, but then it kind of takes some of those fairy tale tropes and turns them around and tells the story in a new, fresh way. This is a princess who, at her christening, all of the fairies are lined up to give her wonderful gifts. They give her wit and charm and all these things, But the very last fairy is a very wise fairy, and she gives the princess the gift of ordinariness. Well, the royal family is just absolutely appalled because, of course, a princess must be beautiful and blonde and perfect is boring. So the ordinary princess grows up doing ordinary things and actually having fun, whereas her royal sisters are stuck doing the perfect courtly manners every day. But the ordinary princess also grows up feeling like she doesn't really belong. She doesn't belong with their perfect royal family. And of course, it's all about her quest to find a place and people among whom she really does belong. The next one is Witchlings by Clarabella Ortega. This is about a young lady who's going to go through a witch ceremony when I think she turns 13 or something. And she's going to be sorted into a group of witches, a coven, so that their magic can be stronger together. But she ends up being a spare. She has no coven. And so now she has to go on a magical quest along with two of the other spares. If they don't complete the quest, they could lose their magic. I loved that this book just has so many different layers and all the magic is really fun. And of course, it's all about the power of friendship. I loved it. The second book in the Pippa Park series is Crush at First Sight. I adore Pippa Park. Pippa is so lovely. It's just so relatable. She's so awkward and weird, and she gets into all of these difficulties. But she learns her lesson. She learns to rely on her friends. The best part about the Pippa Park series is that she is a bicultural kid. So she's Asian American, and we get to learn all about her Asian culture and the festivals and the food and like all these just lovely, rich cultural values. It was so interesting learning all about that. I also read another book in the Myrtle Hardcastle series in Myrtle Peril by Elizabeth C. Bunce. This is about a young lady in Victorian England who does not want to be prim and proper. She wants to solve murder mysteries. This whole series is so cool, and I really liked this last one as well. The characters, the plot, the writing, the mystery, it's all there. In the Sisters of Luna Island, there are 3 sisters who live on an island, and they have aroma magic. When they create certain potions with particular scents and different smells, then that will create some type of magic. The townspeople kind of look at them askew a little bit like, you have magic. I don't know about you. I don't really trust you. But when they are in difficult circumstances, they turn to that family to help them out of their difficulty. I just really love the different personalities of the sisters and the sisterly love, but they kind of annoy each other too. The magic, the plot, all of it really comes together. This is such a beautiful and interesting story. There's so many layers there, and it's very emotional, you know, there's a lot of emotional things going on. Oh, it's just so good. I read 2 of the books in the Kit the Wizard series. The Monster in the Lake and The Wizard in the Wood. This is such a fun series. This is about Kit, who is a young apprentice wizard, and all of their magic is centered around books in the library. They have all sorts of fun adventures, and Kit has to really rely on her non-magical best friends. They're very interested in magic too, and they kind of come along with Kit for the ride, but they themselves don't have any magic. And of course, there's evil bad guys that they have to defeat and magical mysteries that they have to solve. It's really fun. It's just like this breath of fresh air. It's so delightful. I also finally read Lady Susan by Jane Austen. This one was a little iffy. Like, I don't like the Lady Susan as a person. She's a terrible, horrible person, but I can really appreciate just the dry humor and the sarcasm and the way that this story is put together from all these different epistles, different letters from different characters, and you can really see the voice of that character in their letter. What's really cool to me is that like the same character might write a letter to their mom or write a letter to their brother, and they will have a very different tone when they're speaking or writing to different people. So it's so cleverly written. I don't know that I actually liked the story. It's just so genius that it has to be on this list. I read Healer and Witch. This is about a young lady who her grandmother and her mother are all witches who use their magic to heal. And this young lady, she tries to use her magic to do something that she thinks is healing, and it actually ends up hurting someone. So she runs away, she is full of remorse, and she's trying to find like a mentor witch who can teach her how to harness her powers better so that she won't harm anyone again. And adventures ensue. This was just such an interesting like character exploration because she hates that part of herself that has the magic. And she blames herself for this accident that she hurt someone. And it's all about just like she has to go on this inward journey, even while she's going on the outward journey to find a mentor to help her. She has to go on that inward journey and find healing and forgive herself and all these things. So it's just, there's just so many layers in there. It's so good. I also read Anna Hibiscus, and this is just the most cute and sweet and delightful thing that I read all year. Anna Hibiscus lives in a lovely garden compound with her huge family in Africa. And they have little adventures and little this and that about their home and their culture. Their aunt comes to visit and she brings them gifts. And Anna Hibiscus has never seen snow, so she really wishes that she could visit her grandparents in Canada so that she could see snow. But then she realizes the snow is really cold, and so now she's too scared to see snow because she's afraid that it'll be too cold. It's just so adorable. It's just so adorable. I also read Hunters of the Lost City. This is about a young lady who has grown up in a very close-knit city where they cannot venture outside the walls after nightfall because there are monsters out in the woods. Well, one day she gets stuck outside after dark. They have closed the city gates. They will not open those gates for anything. And she has to figure out how to survive the night and escape from the monsters. She hears a legend about a lost city that might be able to help them with weapons or magic or something to defeat the monsters. And she ends up going on a quest to find the lost city. The world building in this, the history, the legends, the magic. Oh my goodness. It's just so complex and so many layers, and it's so good. I also read The Little Bookroom by Eleanor Farjeon. So this is a collection of short stories, and each one is just like so poignant and charming. It really has that old-fashioned charm, and I loved it. I read A Dragon Used to Live Here. This is about two royal children, the prince and princess, and when they're bored, they go, just wandering around the castle, and they discover that down in the cellar, there's a group of scribes. And basically, their job is just to write the royal letters and to send out the royal invitations. And it takes a lot of time to send out, 300 something invitations that all have to be written by hand. So to break up the monotony, they start to tell the children stories. Apparently, the head scribe used to know their mother, the queen, when they were young girls. And so they learn the story of how their father and mother first met, and they discover that a dragon used to live in their very castle. This is so cool because you not only get like all the stories of the flashbacks of their mother and the head scribe in the past, but you also have all the little adventures that the kids are having in the present. There's dragons and trolls and goblins and fairies and all the things you would expect from a fairy tale setting. And I love the way that like ordinary things, like, oh no, you stepped in a puddle and got your shoes wet. Okay, take your shoes off. Oh no, now they're gonna get onto you because you lost your shoes. Like all the little ordinary things that a kid would consider an adventure are mixed in with stuff like fairies and magic and dragons and like actual adventures where you are about to drown if you don't get out of the castle moat. So there's like all these little ordinary everyday things mixed in with the super adventure exciting things. It's so charming. It is so lovely and charming and fun. I read The Last Mapmaker. This is about a young lady who is apprenticed to a map maker. And when the emperor or the king or whoever calls for expeditions to be sent out to all the corners of the globe to map and explore and conquer new areas, then this young lady gets sent along for the ride to chart new territories. The thing is, she is not all that she seems. She has a deep, dark secret. As they go along on their adventures, it becomes very clear that a lot of the people on board ship have very different goals. Some of them evil, some of them good, and this young lady just has to navigate all of the personal relationships of people on board and the political machinations of people, as well as figure out the legends about, ancient lands that they're traveling to. The characters are so complex. Like nobody really is who they seem to be on the surface. They're all the supporting characters, everybody. They're all so deep. I also read the latest book in the Explorer Academy, Dragon's Blood by Trudy Truitt. I have been completely loving the whole Explorer Academy series. Dragon's Blood was really, really good. Just when I think that this series cannot take it to any further level of adventure and emotional heartstrings being tugged and just character development and all those things, then the next book just chomps it right up to the next level. I don't know how they keep doing it. The stakes just keep getting higher and higher and higher for our characters. This is about Cruz, who is attending the Explorer Academy. And of course, he has lots of adventures that he goes on because they're actually explorers. They go around and explore real places from our world, which is why it's so cool, because you get to learn about actual places in our real world. But along the way, he discovers that his dead mother has left clues for him. And so he has to find these clues, but there are evil people who are also after the clues. And so he has to fight off the spies and the bad guys. It's just full of action and wonderful characters and really like heartfelt moments and so much cool information about history and different monuments around the world and different cultures and animals that are endangered and all kinds of cool stuff. And the last one on my list really is maybe one of my favorite books of the year. Like if I had to actually put these in a tier ranking or something, like this would be way up at the top. It's The Forgotten Memories of Vera Glass. This book blew my mind. Like mind blown. I don't even know what's happening anymore. So Vera wakes up one morning with this odd feeling like she has forgotten something, but she can't remember what. She keeps reacting to things in odd ways. Like her family has a spaghetti dinner and she starts to cry. Like, why are you crying over spaghetti? She doesn't know. But we as the reader, we know that the last time she ate spaghetti, her brother made the spaghetti. And now he has disappeared from everyone's memories. So like her brain does not remember her brother, but her heart does. And so she sees the spaghetti and she starts to cry. Man, I started to cry at that scene, okay? And now I'm gonna cry every time I see spaghetti. This book is so emotional and so exciting. And like, as the reader, you know, because as you go along, more and more people start to disappear and Vera can't remember them, but the reader does remember them. So it's like she's grieving for these people that she's lost, but the reader is grieving more. Because we remember them. As the book went along, I started to like really tense up and freak out and be like, not that character. No, not them. You can't take them away. They're my baby. You can't take this character away from me. Oh my gosh. And then, yeah, of course the author was brutal. Oh, this book just put my heart through the ringer, okay? It's so crazy good. And then it's not just like the emotional power of it and everything. These characters are just so compelling that I cared about every single one of them. Like they were people I knew in real life. Like I would die for these people because I love them. Oh my goodness. Okay, I need to calm down. I'm getting a little too excited now. As we gradually begin to figure out why these people are disappearing and why no one can remember them, then it's like, we really want Vera to figure it out. The plot is just so amazing. And as we start to finally solve this mystery of why all these people are disappearing from people's memories, the resolution is just so cool. The way that it all comes together and it's resolved in the end, and it's just like, yes, that was so amazing. Oh, I loved it. So wonderful. All right, those are 23 books that I read that I super loved in 2022. Please leave me a comment down below and let me know what was one of your favorite books that you read this past year. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and remember, the right book in the right hands at the right time can change the world.